There's a Bible verse about money that billions of people can quote from memory. The problem is, it isn't in the Bible. Ask almost anyone, believer or skeptic, what Scripture says about money, and you'll hear the same 6 words. Money is the root of all evil. It's printed on mugs, thrown into arguments, used to excuse staying broke and to condemn the wealthy, often in the very same breath. But open the actual text, 1 Timothy chapter 6, and one word is missing. The verse never says money. It says, the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. One word, love, quietly deleted, and when that word vanished, something much larger vanished with it. Because that single edit didn't just change a sentence, it rewired how an entire faith feels about wealth. It trained generation after generation to flinch at ambition, to feel guilty about provision, to mistake fear for caution and caution for holiness. Here's what almost no one realizes. Scripture describes a precise mindset toward money, a posture God didn't merely tolerate, but openly, repeatedly rewarded. And most Christians today, without ever once choosing it, have inherited the exact opposite. Stay with me, because this is where it turns strange. In the most famous thing Jesus ever said about money, there is a man who gets condemned. Not a thief, not a swindler, not a man who lost it all chasing something reckless. He was careful, he was responsible. He took what he'd been handed, and he protected it, kept it safe, exactly the way most of us were raised to. And for that, he was thrown into the dark. The 2 men beside him did the opposite. They took the risk. They put everything on the line, and they were welcomed into something most people read right past, something the master never offered the careful one at all. So here is the question this entire story turns on. Why did playing it safe earn the harshest verdict Jesus ever handed down? Why was the cautious man the villain? To find out, we have to go back to the moment he made the most reasonable decision of his life, and watch it quietly destroy him. Forget everything you think this story is about. We remember it as a lesson in productivity. Use your gifts. Don't waste your potential. But strip away the Sunday school gloss and look at it the way an investigator looks at a case file, and a very different story rises to the surface. This was never about talent. It was about fear. Here are the facts. A wealthy man is leaving on a long journey. Before he goes, he does something extraordinary. He hands his entire fortune to 3 of his servants, not as a gift, as a trust, and he doesn't split it evenly. He gives to each one according to what he can carry. 5 portions to the first, 2 to the second, 1 to the last. Then he's gone. The first 2 move fast. They take the money out into the world, put it to work, risk it, and they double it. But the 3rd man looks at what he's holding, and something colder takes over. He finds a quiet patch of ground. He digs, and he buries the money in the dirt where nothing can touch it, where nothing can happen to it at all. Now watch closely, because this is the part almost everyone misreads. When the master returns and asks what he did, listen to his defense. "I was afraid," he says, "so I hid it to keep it safe." Read that again. In his own mind, he wasn't lazy. He wasn't a criminal. He thought he was being responsible, careful. And to a modern believer, someone taught that money is dangerous, that ambition is suspect, that the holy move is to keep your head down and guard the little you have. His logic sounds almost like wisdom. That's the trap. The condemned man's mindset is the one most Christians live inside. But the master's verdict cut straight to the real crime, and it has nothing to do with the money. One sentence slips out of the servant. "I knew you were a hard man." There it is. He didn't act out of evil. He acted out of a picture of his master, a picture that was a lie. He believed the master was harsh, withholding, impossible to please. So he froze. He hid. He buried. He wasn't punished for losing money. He was punished for believing something false about the one who trusted him. And notice what the two faithful men received. Not praise scaled to profit. The same words, the identical welcome, though one had earned far more than the other. The reward was never the return. It was the posture, the nerve to deploy what they'd been given, because they trusted the one who gave it. So if burying is the condemned mindset, what does the rewarded one look like in an actual human life? 17 centuries later, one man would answer that with his own bank records. In the early 1700s, a young Oxford scholar sat down and did the math on his own life. His name was John Wesley. As a student, he lived on £28 a year, modest but enough. Food, books, a roof over his head. Then his income began to climb. £30, 60, eventually 120, more than 4 times what he'd started with. And here is the part that still stops historians cold. Every time the money grew, his spending didn't. He kept living on the same £28, year after year, decade after decade. Everything above that line he gave away. Most people, handed that kind of increase, expand to fill it. A bigger house, a finer coat, the quiet, reasonable creep of comfort. Wesley did the reverse. He drew a line at enough, and he held it for 50 years. This is the mindset the buried talent never understood. And it has a name: stewardship. A steward isn't an owner. He's a caretaker, trusted with something that was never his, expected to put it to work, and one day to hand it back. To a steward, money isn't a possession to guard, it's capital to deploy. Wesley pressed the whole philosophy into 3 blunt commands. Gain all you can, save all you can, give all you can, earn without exploiting, spend without indulging, and then, the part almost everyone forgets, release the rest. Then listen to how he described the alternative. To bury money in the ground, he said, or lock it in a chest, or leave it sitting untouched in the Bank of England. It was all the same thing. Not to use it was to throw it away. You can hear the parable breathing underneath every word. The safe thing, the careful thing, the respectable Christian instinct to protect what you have. Wesley named it exactly what the Master named it: waste. Now, before you mistake this for a sermon about getting rich, understand what it actually is. It is not about the size of your account. Jesus had already drawn the real line somewhere else entirely. You cannot serve both God and money. The danger was never the cash. It was the question of who you obey, which means a poor man clutching his last coin in fear and a rich man hoarding a fortune can be standing in the very same place, bowing to the very same master. It was never about how much your hands held. It was about which direction they were turned. So if the text is this clear, if one man could live it this plainly in public for half a century, how did the entire church end up believing the opposite? The strangest part isn't that we got it wrong. It's that we can name, almost to the year, when the reversal happened. And it happened inside Wesley's own movement, while he stood there and watched. By 1789, John Wesley was an old man. and he had lived long enough to watch something break his heart. He had spent decades preaching 3 rules: gain, save, give. So near the end, he counted. Among 50,000 Methodists, 50,000 people raised on his every word, how many actually kept the 3rd rule? How many truly gave all they could? His estimate was brutal, maybe 500 out of 50,000. They had kept the 1st rule easily: gain all you can. That one was simple to love. Many kept the 2nd, save all you can, easier still. But give, the part the whole thing existed for, it had quietly evaporated, and Wesley refused to soften it. A man who gains and saves but will not give, he warned, becomes twice the child of hell he was before. The reversal didn't take 1,000 years. It took a single generation. And it happened to the very people who invented the rule. So how does that happen? How does a faith built on an open hand curl into a fist? It begins with one deleted word. Remember it? The love of money, worn down over centuries to just money. And once money itself became the suspect, 2 opposite errors grew from the same root. On one side, the instinct that money is dirty, ambition is worldly, and the holy move is to want less, keep your head down, and quietly bury what you have. The careful servant, recast as a saint. On the other side, the opposite extreme, that God exists to make you wealthy, that faith is a transaction, that the size of your account is the measure of his favor. They look like enemies, they're twins. Both are still fixated on the money itself, one fearing it, one worshipping it. And neither one is stewardship. Neither one is the open hand. Now, you've probably heard it said that Jesus spoke about money more than heaven and hell combined, that 16 of his 38 parables were about wealth. Be careful with that, it's overstated. Many of those stories only used money as a picture, to explain grace or the kingdom, not finance. But strip the exaggeration away, and something real is still standing. Money was the illustration Jesus reached for again and again, because nothing on earth reveals where your heart has actually placed its trust faster than what you do with what you've been given. And that is the quiet verdict on us. Not that we love money too openly, that we've hidden it, buried it under guilt, or buried it under greed, and called both of those things faith. Which brings us back to the servant in the dark. Because there is one line in the master's verdict that almost no one notices, one sentence that explains everything we've been circling. And the moment you hear it, the whole story turns inside out. Here is the line everyone reads past. When the master turns to the servants who risked everything, he doesn't say, "Well done, here's a bigger paycheck." He doesn't hand them a percentage. He says something strange, something almost no one slows down to hear. Enter into the joy of your master. Read that again. The reward for handling money well was not more money. It was more trust, more responsibility, a seat closer to the one they served. The faithful servants weren't paid. They were promoted into relationship. The money was never the prize. It was only ever the test. And that single line dismantles everything we thought this story was about. Because the mindset God rewarded was never to get rich, and it never stay poor. Both of those still make money as the main character. What he rewarded was a posture, open hands, holding loosely, willing to deploy and risk and release, all of it flowing from one quiet conviction. That the master is good, that he is generous, that what he hands you to be used. The buried man believed the opposite. He looked at God and saw a hard man. And out of that one lie, everything else followed. The fear, the digging, the dirt. Now look at what he actually buried. It wasn't only money, it was his chance, his calling, his one shot at the joy the others walked straight into. He took the most valuable thing he would ever be handed, and he hid it in the ground to keep it safe. And safe was exactly how he lost it. Because the thing you bury to protect is the thing you forfeit. He didn't lose his talent to a thief, or a crash, or an enemy at the gate. He lost it to his own fear, and so do we. The buried talent was never just a coin in the dirt. It's a picture of a buried life. The gift you never used. The generosity you kept postponing until you finally had enough. The calling you smothered because the risk felt irresponsible and the silence felt safe. All of it hidden. All of it wasted. All of it mistaken for wisdom. So tomorrow morning, the real question isn't how much do I have? That was never the question. The question is this: what am I burying? And what lie about God is making me bury it? Because in the end, the Master never asked whether your hands were full or empty. The rich man and the poor man stood side by side in that story, and what divided them was never the amount. He asked one thing: whether your hands were open. The open hand was the rewarded mindset all along, and the closed fist, however careful, however cautious, however reverent it looked, was always, quietly, the opposite.